Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Building My Life podcast. This particular segment is on mental health. If you guys been following me for any amount of time, you know that I'm definitely an advocate for mental health. Mental health matters. Regardless of whatever your age, your experience, we all at some point in our life go through different stresses. And just for life, let's just be honest. Can we talk about it? Um, I've been very transparent with a lot of things that I've experienced. At least I try to be for the most part. And so one of the reasons I'm having this conversation today is because I want to share something that I discovered about myself in therapy. So I've been going to therapy at least for the last year or so. And the reason I initially uh, started going, for some of you that may not know, I was fighting a custody battle. Well, it's an ongoing thing, still having going through a custody battle right now. But I didn't have my children, but I was fighting so I can get them. And now that I have them, I'm a single dad, full time. So that's why I kind of had to take a little bit of break from doing the podcast until I was able to get things in order, get my mental health together, and just get a lot of things in structure. And now the reason I relaunched this is because I've been able to do that, and I thank God for that, of course. Um, Spirituality, my relationship with God, I believe that that's the underlining factor, the foundation of everything in which we're able to live. And I promise you, I probably couldn't do any of this without him. So the spiritual aspect is definitely an important component to living a life that's that's stressless, right? Or that can even be better. But let's be honest, you know what I'm saying? Regardless of, spirituality, even spiritual people, Christian leaders, that everybody has to deal with mental health. So what I like to do, I like to take a more practical approach, but also include spirituality within it, because a lot of times in the church, in a church culture, we over spiritualize things that are natural. And so what I like to do is I like to separate the spirit man from the soul man, which are two different components to who we are. We're spirit, body, and soul. And when we get saved, our spirit is it becomes something totally new. But now we got to continue to work out the salvation process within our soul, which incorporates our mind, will, and emotions. So as I shared and stated in the last episode, there are so many processes within this thing, but I don't think we have these type of conversations enough so that we actually understand. You can love the Lord, you can be a great person, but that doesn't eliminate the fact that we're going to go through trials and tribulations. Even Jesus himself said, in this world you will have trials and tribulations, but he says, be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. And so we know by way of the scriptures and revelation that if you're in this world, if you're on this side, you're going to have trials and tribulations. But when you have him, and when you have him first in your heart, and him to help you navigate through life, then you're able to have peace in the midst of those trials and tribulations. So there are benefits to having a relationship with the Lord Jesus, and it definitely makes life even more easy. It doesn't eliminate the trials and tribulations. It doesn't eliminate, the fact that we go through opposition. No, the fact that we have him helps us. He helps us to navigate through those seasons. And so one of the things he led me to do is go to therapy, go to counseling. And when I initially went, I was going through stresses between work, between a job and, being a single dad. I decided to begin to go to therapy. And even though I'm in a much better state, I continue it. I keep it going. And the reason I keep it going, I look at it as preventive maintenance. You know, the Bible also teaches in a multitude of wise counselors their safety. So I know in a African American culture, uh, therapy is not necessarily something that's deemed, but I'm hoping through this conversation that we could, you know, kind of change that a lot of people's mindset as it pertains to it. there's a lot of great things that you can receive, especially if you find the right therapist for you. And the therapist that I go through, she's not only a licensed counselor, but she's also a believer. And so I'm able to even share some of my faith and different things that I'm experiencing in my life, and I'm able to talk to her and have those interchangeable conversations because she understands. But had my counselor been someone that wasn't a believer, it'll be a little more difficult to explain what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing, and to really be open and transparent. So I thank God for my therapist. Yeah. So anyway, um, in my session this week, I discovered something about myself that I was not aware. So a lot of you guys are still getting to know me, and I'm a person that's very structured, very organized, and I function better in that. I find out that when I can't function well in chaos, and so what I do is I need things to be in order, and of course that's a place for that. But uh, there's also what came out was, there's parts of me that like to control certain things, and I don't necessarily see myself as a controlling individual, but but um but needing, but I guess certain aspects of what it is that I want can kind of be controlling. For instance, I give these examples so you can kind of see what what I'm talking about. So basically, you know, I like to have as much information as possible ahead of time. So say for instance, if I'm at work, which by profession I cook. I'm a chef and an assistant living and memory care facility. And so when I'm cooking, and I like to know, I have some residents that like certain things, and some residents are okay with eating what's on the menu. So some of my residents, I know they might have a particular preference. Maybe they want a salad, maybe they want this. So in order to reduce my anxiety, because I can be very anxious at times, and I don't like I don't like being, surprised by certain things. So I like to be prepared. I like to be mentally prepared so I can know how to uh, properly respond. And I actually do that in a lot of situations, which has helped me to minimize blow ups or minimize, you know, being overly anxious. I like to mentally prepare myself. And so, for instance, I might go to my resident and say, hey, this is what's on the menu today. Would you like this or would you prefer a salad? And I go early enough so it gives me time to prepare. And that eliminates like any frustration, any anxiety. And every now and then I get surprised with, hey, da da da, can you do this? And for the most part, I don't get anxious every time, but if it's something that I can't do like immediately or it takes time, then I start to get anxious, and out of that anxiousness I kind of get upset. And the reason I get upset is because I don't like feeling rushed. I don't like people standing over me waiting, and so I like to be able to fulfill the task and have enough time to do it. So when I feel like I'm placed in a position where I'm put under pressure, and I start to get anxious. Now, that's under certain circumstances, because I have found that I respond very well under pressure, but it's just a different type of pressure. Like the pressure with life, I respond very well to it, but situations where I'm having to do a task, especially if the task is tedious, then I need a little bit more time. And so, knowing certain things about myself, knowing certain characteristics about myself, I like to always be prepared. I like to be mentally prepared. So what came out when I was sharing with my therapist, she began to tell me that a lot of what I was doing was a trauma response, that I needed to control certain things. And I was like, wow, that was like a newfound revelation, because I didn't even know that. I didn't realize, like, and even when I shared my process when it comes to like dating, how I navigate through the whole dating aspect. She made mention that it sounded like she said it sounded like interview, and all I said was, I started, uh, I started, and when in the process of dating, in order to guard my heart or steward my heart well, I started separating how I feel from what I know, and so when I'm getting to know someone, I don't initially just tell them how I feel. I just gather data. I just get information. I may ask open-ended questions and just get to know that individual so that I can and I'm taking a mental note. So I can make a decision whether or not I believe this is the right person for me. And I say this approach, may be a little bit different, but uh, but it helps me to really steward my heart well and lead my heart. But not only that, not lead someone else's on. And so this is something that I've been practicing the last few years, in order to not, kind of purposely dating, but it's just a different approach that the Holy Spirit gave me. And I was sharing this with her, and she said that sounds like an interview, because I was sharing that, the idea is building rapport and investigating. So when you're getting to know people, um, it takes time. So there's this process of investigating where you ask questions, you get to know that person, you get to know their history, get to know their thought processes, get to know what is they into, what they're looking for, where they see themselves going, right? What's their idea of the family dynamics. You're getting all this information. You're investigating and you're building rapport. You're getting to know that individual. And I feel that a lot of people rush into relationship and they get emotional attachments pretty quickly. And just through my own personal experience and just what I've observed, I have noticed it doesn't always work that way. It doesn't work well. So what I decided to do for my own mental health, because man, when you fall in love, it could be very emotionally draining, especially if you get hurt and you start getting emotionally attached too quickly. And I've actually learned that about myself, that I have the tendency to do that. So I had to start leading my heart in a place of wisdom, where so it wouldn't be this emotional roller coaster where I had to separate how I felt from what I know. And in doing that, I just began this process of investigating and building rapport. And so as I'm investigating and building rapport, if I'm interested in this person, they may not know it, because my approach is a little different. So I'm just, hey, I'm initially may reach out, hey, you want to do this, you want to go out and talk, and then in conversation, I prefer to have conversations before go on a date or whatever. So in the conversation, I can kind of see their thought processes, how they think, and different things like that. And I would know by way of the conversation, if we're compatible at all, and if we could go further, But most people prefer to go on a date first, But I'm like, no, let's have a conversation. Let's just talk, so I can kind of see where they are. And so that's kind of my whole process. So I was sharing this with her, and she's like, that sounds like an interview. And I found out I've placed these systems in place in my life. And in creating these systems, all these systems are designed to protect me. All these systems are designed to protect my heart. Now, there's nothing wrong with us protecting our heart, because God tells us to do that. But I didn't realize it was a trauma response. I didn't realize it was a trauma response. So I'm like, wow. So what do I do about this? Because I don't want to be responding from a place of trauma. So I'm all about, guys, about growing, maturing, and becoming the best version of myself. And so this is why I'm putting myself in environment and spaces where I can begin to learn more about myself, things that I've experienced that I may not even be aware of, or things I've encountered, things that I'm still healing from. We're all healing from different things. And for those of you that are maybe listening, you may have trauma responses that you are aware or not aware of, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. But I think that if you're mindful of, you're aware of it, it can help, because, some of our trauma responses are not always good trauma responses. So I created a whole system in which I like to have control over certain things, because I know the outcome of it. And And that could be a good or bad thing, all depending on the situation. But I'm definitely gonna keep my eye on it, because anywhere there's any type of control, manipulation, or anything like that, we have to be careful that we're not operating in that spirit of witchcraft, which ultimately is a work of the flesh. And so, because I desire to keep my heart pure in the things of God and just how I function, even when it pertains to relationship, I don't want to be so caught up in myself, that because there's some aspects of what I'm doing that can kind of be seen as selfish. I'm being selfish because I'm only considering myself, because I in desire to protect myself, that I'm not really considering the other person. I'm not considering how I respond. Well, most of the time I am considering how I respond, but with me going this way, you know, if I'm reaching out to someone and I'm investing in a relationship with them, and they have no idea of this process that I'm going, I'm doing with getting to know them, but they may be interested. They may be allowing themselves to be emotionally available to me. And it's not that I'm not necessarily emotionally available, because I'm very transparent in my sharing. um, I guess, but I'm limited in what I give them emotionally, because I want to make sure this is the right person, and that's just me just trying to protect and guard myself, because I've found that through some of my experiences, that I can get emotionally attached pretty quickly. Now that's not a good thing, especially when you just met somebody, and when you start having conversations and you talking to them and get to know them. So it's just all about knowing yourself. We all should know ourselves well enough to know our triggers, right? What triggers us, what upsets us, and based off of that, we make the right decisions, or um, we make the right decisions that's going to kind of help us to navigate that better. And that's what I'm ultimately trying to do. Now, why I'm sharing this with many of you, because you may have your own situations that you're dealing with. Yes, Jesus is the Lord over our life, spiritually. He's the King of glory, right? He's the author and the finisher of our faith. But we are not to be negligent and irresponsible in knowing that we're here on this earth, and we have to navigate life daily. And for many of us, we do have stresses of life. If you're a parent, if you're a husband or a wife, if you're a business owner, whatever you're doing, like, it all comes with its own level of stresses. So I'm here to tell you today that mental health matters. Do not do not do not be do not neglect your mental and emotional health. Take care of yourself. Work out. Eat clean. Yeah, watch what you put in your body, but also be aware of how you feel when you put certain things in your body. And I'm telling you, it's gonna be a blessing to you, because some food is not good. It doesn't help your mental health. I've even heard that certain food can cause you to go into depression. So it's just like being informed. Educate yourself with certain things. Pay attention to how you feel when you eat certain things, and pay attention to how you feel when you don't. You pay attention to how you feel when you work out, and pay attention to how you feel when you don't. Like, all these things are going to really help you in the days to come, because we're literally on this journey of just becoming the best version of ourselves. And ultimately, you should want to, for not only yourself, your kids, your children, your children's children. You want to be here to be able to watch them grow old. You want to create a legacy for them, and you want to just live the best life that you could possibly live. You know, I don't believe that you have to settle. I don't believe that what you have and what's in front of you, you have to accept that. I believe that you can create the life that you want, but you have to be willing to do the work and trust God in the process. So, yeah, so mental health matters, guys. You know, I just found this out about myself, and I was like, wow. So I wanted to come on today, and I wanted to share with you guys, because, like, listen, I believe that somebody that may be going through their own thing, and they may need to hear this today. So I hope my transparency helps one of you guys. Listen, I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear your thoughts about this whole thing. And if you have your own situations, that's very similar, I would love to hear from you. So hit the comment button. Hit the please leave your comments in the comment section, and I would love to hear from you guys. All right, thank you guys for listening to on today's episode of Building My Life podcast, and I'll talk to you all soon. Love you.